big picture, this organization seems to be stuck right now, and certainly I think most people would agree in no man's land in terms of the NFL. How do you view where the Bears are at, big picture, coming off of consecutive 8-8 seasons, starting over again at the quarterback position, and having a handful of their top tier guys starting to get older and maybe reaching that point where they're a little bit beyond their peak?
I think the window is really closing, Brent, and that's the best way I can say it. If we're basing this off of where they were in 2018, and obviously that's not very long ago, but we know in this league how short those windows are, especially when you don't have a permanent solution at the quarterback position. Those windows get real tight. And in 2018 was that, obviously very productive year for this defense. It's hard to do that every year. It's hard to be that dominant on defense and take the ball away at that rate. So you need something to supplement that. Well, that's your special teams, your run game, plus your pass game. But I do think the window is closing. I think big picture right now, the window is closing. And we're talking about a team that right now, the plan is to live year to year at the quarterback position. So you're in a tough spot because I agree with you on the defensive side of the ball. They are getting older. Kyle Fuller is no longer in town. You have to address that need. I think you need to get faster and more athletic at the linebacker position next to Roquan Smith. You have to see if Robert Quinn can be the guy you paid for to be that consistent disruptor on the edge. Like we talked about, you had to have another corner. You need to find a safety too. You need to find a safety opposite Eddie Jackson. So there are also areas to address in your defensive side of the ball in terms of roster construction. But to answer your question, Brad, I think that window is getting pretty tight right now from a national perspective. And that's why it goes back to what we talked about earlier in the program about Matt Nagy and what he can do with Andy Dalton, another new quarterback, how he can scheme him and get that offense going.
Matt, for an organization that hasn't won a playoff game in over a decade and is coming off back-to-back 8-8 seasons, I think it's a pretty grim but honest assessment that their window is closing. And I think folks have to buckle in and be ready for, as Brad said, the word they're kind of stuck right now. If the window's closing on a team that hasn't had much success the last 2 years, well, maybe find some other things to do with your Sunday afternoons, right?
I mean, we'll see what happens. But, I mean, this draft is very interesting to me from the perspective of the Bears because Brad and I have talked about what they do at 20. Obviously, offensive tackle is a need. Do they go after Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech? Is that a possibility at number 20? And what do they do at cornerback? Greg Newsome is an option. Greg Newsome started his high school career at Glenbard North High School out here in Carroll Stream. A technique sound corner from Northwestern. Very well coached under Pat Fitzgerald. You can see that when you watch the film. Smooth pedal, stays on top of routes, had on the ball production, will tackle in the run game, will set an edge for you. I think he's someone that's rising in this draft right now. You look at the second round, if they don't get a corner at 20, there's other options. In one spot is, do the Bears draft a corner that can play inside? Do they go after an Asante Sambo from Florida State and try to make him a slot corner? Robinson from Central Florida, who played in the slot. Do they go after a slot corner? Does a corner like Tyson Campbell slide? Tyson Campbell's a former 5-star recruit out of Georgia. I don't think his traits match his production. He has extremely high-level traits. He didn't see enough production at Georgia at times. But in terms of someone who's a man corner, who's got length, can make plays in the football, that's someone you can insert into your lineup early to play opposite Jalen Johnson. Now you have two young cornerbacks with competitive coverage traits. That puts you in a positive position. But we'll see what they do there. And it's very interesting to me, if they do target a corner, is it an outside corner or is it someone that can play inside? Because that's an area they need to address as well.